So this is a follow-up to the video that I shot before explaining what I'll call the greenhouse side of things, or what's now referred to as Woodsy Creek. And now I'm going to take you through the other side of the project, which is going to be over to our right when I switch this around here momentarily, what we're referring to as the Boston Canal. This is the same view we started with in the first video related to Woodsy Creek. And now we're going to go over to the right side here. So down this side, and Baybug here, enjoying a little bit of fun with her red ball. And then we're going to take a tour. First, we're going to stop and say hi to Seiji. Hi, Seiji. And then we're going to go get an idea of how this works. So our house here is in the middle, as I explained before, and things go around on each side. So over here, where we have the fence, this was actually more of the problematic side in terms of what we'll refer to as the general muck zone. And I think part of it was because it didn't have near as much slope and was really full of quite a bit of vegetation. We originally tried to do what we call a fence inside the fence, so we tried to keep Bay in particular out of the muck. But what we ended up doing is a combination of, right down here, this is some mini excavator work by my friend Caleb. So everything that drains from the yard past the fence and down to the road was taken care of this Wednesday. This was the original attempt beginning last year and has been redone twice now. This is filled in terms of all the corresponding rocks. You'll notice we went over some rocks. I needed to be able to get the power wagon in here without mucking up too much. And now we have a combination of things. A little bit of music definitely doesn't hurt. Is now I've redone the pipe that we had in there before. So there's a layer of rock after I dug down to the clay. Then there's the landscape fabric. Then there's another layer of rock. Now there's this. And I'm going to go and create what's referred to as a burrito by covering up the top with this other landscape fabric that then gets tucked in. So it will end up being an entire tube of landscape fabric outside the tube that actually progresses the water down with the filter cloth on it as well. So I'll be reusing a lot of this rock that I pulled off to the side to be able to fill on the top, as you saw at the very beginning. And then I will stop the pipe about here, because then I went back to more of what I did on the other side, which was the 3-foot wide, flat bottomed down to the clay. Now it's been a while since I've touched this because we've had some rain. But there is clay right underneath that, as well as a couple frogs that have been enjoying some time in there. I had to add in a little bit of a spur off towards our neighbors, which is Semco, because that's where their driveway and their parking lot drains in. So that's actually a small burrito over here that comes in a pipe that comes out into the main drainage. And this is sort of in a couple different stages of the actual work right now. So we're going to be going back to one that hasn't really been demucked too much, but is pretty close to the clay. And then one that really doesn't have as much demucking at all back here, as I'm sinking in with my feet. Had to move a couple trees again. And then this is as far as I got. So I did a little bit of a small canal down here through the middle to try to keep things moving. But this gives you an indication of the progression of the muck to the grassy muck to then ultimately the forest that will get us back, following the yellow flags that are out in the distance, probably about another 50 to 75 feet before I think we've pretty much done everything we can do. So at this point, we are getting closer to the end as fall is starting to get closer, and you can get a sense of what we've been able to try to do to move things and get water all the way outside of our property. It's finally time for the final tour of, in this case, Boston Canal. So some of this has not changed much since the last video. A little bit of the rock settling. The dogs have been running through here, so I had to rearrange a couple rocks every once in a while, but everything's dried up. We had an inch of rain on Monday, so this seems to have come through pretty well. This now is Saturday. Nice overcast day to wrap things up. A little bit of settling in my spur over here in terms of the rocks. This has still got a little bit of a drainage, maybe not quite perfect, but at least it's not over the rocks. Everything's been holding up pretty nicely on the edges here after I added some more rocks and stapled a couple of those sides. This is still the full width piece, and then I was starting to run out of rocks and I wanted to get farther back, so I made a little larger spot right here and then decided to just go with a 2 shovel width and the 4-foot fabric that then was stapled. So trying to stretch the last bits of rocks here out to the very end, getting pretty close to actually the other drainage in terms of Woodsy Creek, but kind of got to, things were getting pretty close to the clay, not near as much topsoil, though it still has quite the same nice dark. Have to find a place for some of that stuff, but then wrap it up here, and of course not too far away from the other one in terms of the fence, but I think this will give us enough drainage. I just need to trim up the fabric here and we'll call it good.